Hi, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to DIA Artists and Artists Lecture Series. I am Jasmine Raymond, DIA's curator and the organizer of this program. I would like to begin by thanking the C Foundation and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs for their generous support of this program. And I also would like to thank Patrick Hellman, Ashley Tickle, and Christine Poor for their help coordinating this series, and special thanks for Michael Short and Walter Biggs at Sperone and Westwater for their generosity in lending the work of Bruce Nauman and helping us with the installation. I'm delighted to welcome Getty Siboni, who I know for many years now, and I worked recently with him at the Walker Art Center, an exhibition that opened last month. And I can see from the audience tonight that he doesn't need a long introduction. He also forbid me from talking about his education background, but he did go to school somewhere. So I just want to mention a few things about his work, because Getty Siboni has been making reliefs, sculptures, and freestanding spaces in environments that have enamored us over the last 10 years and so. And by combining really modest construction materials, ranging from drywall, cardboard, carpets, to plywood, and objects within the architecture of the space. His work brings into play the relationship between objects and space, the expansive volume of light, and the weight of language. Words for him have been a primary material, and together with matter and materiality, point to the integral role of composition and the tone of what the possibilities of sculpture today. Uninhabited by the precariousness of certain elements of materials that finds in spaces, Siboni has set out to develop in the last decade a semantic of remnants and particles that considers a new poetics, a one of scatters and collectivity, rendering circumstances and juxtapositions. And his proposals, he has invited us for a new way of seeing, of thinking, and of laughing with art. Thank you. Please help me welcome Getty Siboni.
Thank you. I just want to say that I really enjoy working with Jasmine and had a great time at the Walker, and sorry to intervene with any suggestions on the introduction, but I was just trying to limit the amount of embarrassment. So now let's get started. This is clearly Newman's most important and largest work. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I'm going to start. The beginnings are a little tough, so I'm going to read a story that I sometimes read to my kids, although they don't really like it that much. But I've got the pictures up there, and I'll just start. So. I'm usually not nervous when I read this story, but okay, here we go. This is Christopher Robin. I had a penny, a bright new penny. I took my penny to the market square. I wanted a rabbit, a little brown rabbit, and I looked for a rabbit most everywhere. For I went to the stall where they sold sweet lavender. Only a penny for a bunch of lavender. Have you got a rabbit? 'Cause I don't want lavender. But they hadn't got a rabbit, not anywhere there. I had a penny, and I had another penny, and I took my pennies to the market square. I did want a rabbit, a little baby rabbit, and I looked for rabbits most everywhere. And I went to the stall where they sold fresh mackerel. Now then, 2 pence for a fresh caught mackerel. Have you got a rabbit? 'Cause I don't like mackerel. But they hadn't got a rabbit, not anywhere there. I found a 6-pence, a little white 6-pence. I took it in my hand to the market square. I was buying my rabbit. I do like rabbits. And I looked for my rabbit most everywhere. So I went to the stall where they sold fine saucepans. Walk up, 6 pence for a saucepan. Could I have a rabbit? 'Cause we've got 2 saucepans. But they hadn't got a rabbit, not anywhere there. Well, I had nothing. No, I hadn't got nothing. So I didn't go down to the market square, but I walked on the common, the old gold common, and I saw rabbits most everywhere. So I'm sorry for the people who sell fine mackerel. I'm sorry for the people who sell fresh saucepans. I'm sorry for the people who sell sweet lavender, because I haven't got a rabbit, not anywhere there. So, that makes sense. I had the honor of seeing Bruce Nauman in person, giving a conversation with Robert Storr at the 92nd Street Y. I don't know, 5, 8, 9, 10 years ago. Anybody remember when that was? Okay, 5. Right, so he said, I was walking under the highway overpass and there was a billboard, it was an advertisement for a movie, and the big thing that it said was run from fear, and some kid maybe or whatever came over with a spray paint and crossed it out and wrote fun from rear. And I just was so struck by the straightforwardness of his willingness to give his source, that it was such a direct extrapolation from life, and it made me feel a certain incredible porousness that he had with the world, where he would allow things to come in that way, like a found moment or a found opportunity that then one could extrapolate meaning from indefinitely. Let's just move here. This is an incredible painting. I mean, I'm really taken by the stuff happening in the lower left corner, and especially, but the whole thing too. Now, there's a really interesting difference between these two postures. This is Philip Guston. Let's see. Oh yeah, I mean, there's something about what's being dragged in this one versus a kind of self-imposed, martyrdom in this one. You get this feeling, I mean, Nauman was so elegant and he did all those sort of contrapposto poses, and, and this being tied up, it's so theatrical and dramatic, and it's a completely different attitude than this one. And it has something to do just with the hunch of the shoulders or something. But I think that it really separates. I mean, these two artists are sort of two pieces of this fork, and Guston goes all the way one way and Nauman kind of the other, and I see them related. So okay, so I want to start with the Greeks because it is the Ides of March today, and I guess that was the day that Julius Caesar was killed. I think that's Greek, but it is Greek, right? It's not Roman. It's Roman. So there's these. There's Sextus and Zeno. I have to just say, okay. Thomas McKeevely wrote a book called The Shape of Ancient Thought, which was a great So yeah, a compilation of ancient Indian and Greek thinking. So here's this argument that goes on is basically this refutation of dialectics, which comes from having a world with either A or B being not A and A being not B or this thing. So they periodically go through and they deconstruct this form of argumenting, of argumentating. Let me just read this. If a thing moves, it moves either in the place where it is or in that where it is not. But it does not move in the place where it is, for if it is in it, it remains in it. Nor yet does it move in the place where it is not, for where a thing is not, there it can neither affect nor suffer anything. Therefore nothing moves. Well, then Sextus comes in and finishes Zeno's thought here. What is said to be at rest is in fact held to be embraced by the things which surround it, and what is embraced is acted upon, but nothing acted upon exists, since no causal activity exists, as we have shown. Therefore nothing is at rest. So I think what's basically going on here is, this piece of Naumann's is essentially about this paradox, I think, and then we introduce this third space that's neither A or B or not B. Let's keep going here. This is called North by Philip Guston. It's pretty good. This one's really good too. Now let's see, I have a lot of different things here, so this is a funny one that I came across. I'm going to go and just say that in the past, let's say 10 years ago or when I was younger, there was frequently this discussion about whether Naumann meant it or not with these pieces, like was he being sincere or cynical or something like that. And I always remember thinking during those arguments in school that it was just so silly, because what we're really talking about is what meaning it means, and you can't just say one way or the other without getting into this thing about meaning it, which is such a thick and expansive territory. So I'm going to go back to the cynic. Well, I just wanted to go back and see what the cynic was back in ancient Greece, and so this is the cynic view, also thanks to Thomas McEvilley's book. There is, in fact, in the cynic view, no avoiding suffering, and the attempt to avoid it is regarded as the surest way to increase it. Acceptance is the surest way to mitigate it. Okay, so here we quote, "Suffer so that you may not suffer. By attempting not to suffer, suffering is not avoided. On the contrary, it is even pursued. Happiness, the goal of cynic practice, is not to find its pleasure, nor is the avoidance of pain, which is not to be hoped for, but consists of a complete independence which is called virtue. Happiness is not pleasure, for which we need externals, but virtue, which is complete without externals. ... This is a good part. Avoid discoursing, for the long road to happiness is through discourses, but that through the daily practice of deed is the short way." That has nothing to do with the way we use the word cynic in American English at the present time. I can't really see any connection. Does anybody see a connection? It's okay if you do. Okay. So, let's see. What's next? Oh yeah, this is really one of my favorite pieces. He writes in the sky, the land alone." So Beckett is clearly, everybody talks about the influence that Beckett had on Naumann, and I've read everybody knows Waiting for Godot, and then there's all these other ones where there's these simple movements that the characters reenact. It's sort of like that waiting space, and so I went onto the internet and I Googled Beckett, and then it said Beckett quotes. So I hit that, and the number one was this. His plan, therefore, this is from a book called More Pricks Than Kicks. His plan, therefore, was not to refuse admission to the idea, but to keep it at bay until his mind was ready to receive it, then let it in and pulverize it, obliterate the bastard. So I sort of thought, wow, bastard, huh? That's kind of like the last generation's word. I don't know if had a sort of different feeling. So luckily, Jenny Monick, who is here today, and my lovely wife has an incredible library. So I went to More Pricks Than Kicks, and I said I can find a better quote. So I opened the book, and this one popped out. She was so sad and busy. The sobs were so quick to ripen and burst in her mind, and the work was so nice that she did not notice a fat, drab demon approach the house. Oh, okay. We'll just go quickly through here, but so now this is I'm gonna get some. We're gonna do read along here. Are there any questions? Does anybody have any questions so far? Is it making sense? So okay. The clearest connection for Naumann is Wittgenstein. He famously he did the piece called "A Rose Has No Teeth," which came from this book, Philosophical Investigations. If I remember correctly, Wittgenstein wrote, "A rose has no teeth except perhaps in the mouth of the beast that dung it," which I always thought was a really nice sentence. But I want to get into this passage of text because I think it has a certain. Wittgenstein was trained as an engineer. Naumann's father was an engineer. Specifically, he sold engineering equipment, so he was a salesman. And the engineering connection is really strong in terms of how language is used. So I hope that we can all sort of go through this. It won't take too long, but there's something that happens. Again, I sort of just as always with Wittgenstein, you just open up a page and you can get sucked in for the better part of a year. But what does it mean when we say, "I can't imagine the opposite of this," or "What would it be like if it were otherwise?" For example, when someone has said that my images are private, or that only I myself can know whether I'm feeling pain and similar things. Well, of course, here I can't imagine the opposite doesn't mean my powers of imagination are unequal to the task. These words are a defense against something whose form makes it look like an empirical proposition, but which is really a grammatical one. Why do we say I can't imagine the opposite? Why not I can't imagine the thing itself? Example, every rod has a length. That means something like we call something or this the length of a rod, but nothing the length of a sphere. Now I can imagine every rod having a length. Well, I simply imagine a rod. Only this picture in connection with the proposition has quite a different role from one used in connection with the proposition this table has the same length as that one over there. For here I understand what it means to have a picture of the opposite, nor need it be a mental picture. But the picture attaching to the grammatical proposition could only show, say, what is called the length of a rod. And what should the opposite picture be? Remark about the negation of an a priori proposition. Well, I don't know exactly what the negation of an a priori proposition is, but what I love is the insertion of a note to self through the structure of a double parentheses. and then leaving that as a actual occurrence of the thing intended to be described. It's like it slows this whole thing is, what's being explained here. This is actually the thing. It sort of, he shifts it into this. So then the next part, this body has extension. To this we might reply nonsense, but are inclined to reply of course. Why is this? I mean, this reminds me of something that I read in an interview a couple nights ago with Naumann, which was that he was in a graduate school critique, and a woman was using a piece of bread, a loaf of bread, and the teacher said, that's irresponsible of you to use bread because there are people starving. And he said, at that moment I immediately thought, he put it in such good words. He thought, if ever I feel inclined to use something, I'll use it even if it does not appear appropriate to somebody else, which is, to me, there's such permission granted in that. In other words, if you feel that this isn't going to appear appropriate, you do it anyway. You're talking about art as a reflection of something that's occurring rather than a responsibility towards something that should be. And it's that actually which to me changes the direction of how we view making. In other words, it's almost as if to me it's sort of like the wind, which the wind doesn't blow, the wind actually sucks. It's a lack of pressure that pulls air. It's that direction. It's not that direction. All right, let me just skip through the end of this Wittgenstein because it's we'd get mired down. Does anybody have any random silly questions, or should I keep going? Is this getting okay? Sorry, did somebody say something? Okay. I don't, yeah, isn't that crazy? What is that? This body has extension. What is that? Yeah, somehow that the body acts in that action, it extends itself. I mean, why would we reply nonsense but be always inclined to reply of course and edit ourselves in that too? It's so odd. The substitution of identical for the same is another typical expedient in philosophy, as if we were talking about shades of meaning and that all were in question were to find words to hit on a correct nuance. There is in question in philosophy only where we have to give a psychologically exact account of the temptation to use a particular kind of expression. What we are tempted to say in such a case is, of course, not philosophy, but it is its raw material. Thus, for example, what a mathematician is inclined to say about the objectivity and reality of mathematical facts is not a philosophy of mathematics, but something for philosophical treatment. The philosopher's treatment of a question is like the treatment of an illness. Now, what about language which describes my inner experiences and which only I myself can understand? How do I use words to stand in for my sensations, as we ordinarily do? Then are my words for sensations tied up with my natural expression of sensations? In that case, my language is not a private one. Someone else might understand it as well as I. But suppose I didn't have any natural expression for the sensation, but only had the sensation. And now I simply associate names with sensation and use these names in descriptions. All right, let's not read for a second here. Okay, so this is page 1 of the Catalogue Raisonné. This piece, done in 1965. This was made right before the birth of Naumann's son. Early on, when he was 25, had a son early, or at least what seems like early. I was never able to get past the words Neil Ben Ezra because I was so compelled by this object, and it has always lived in my mind as Neil Ben Ezra. Neil Ben Ezra is Naumann's best piece. I really think so. I mean, you know, we're looking at the depiction of a three-dimensional shape inside of a field, which, you know, might be sky, let's say. Oh God, I want to do something to honor Neil Ben Ezra, but I just, I mean, we'll keep moving. Let me see some other. Okay. Let's see where we can go from here. I mean, isn't that a compelling thing? Look how it's hung. There's that little string, or that little thing like it was hung from a molding or something. This is Giotto from the something Joachim's Sacrifice, or I'm running out of images here. Hand puppet. Well, I really want to get into the this thing about Naumann's love of horses, and I mean, as I went through this, you know, preparing this talk over as time passed, I sort of kept thinking, God, the most curious thing in my mind is Naumann's relationship to his children, and how having a son at 25 and then a daughter at 29. You know, I mean, we're talking about somebody whose primary occupation is the relationship of manifested emotion, but the problem. I think. I mean, the problem of the hesitancy to describe emotion. And the sort of tension that's created in that relationship to emotional situations, and I just started thinking about you know, these. Okay, so on the one hand, in terms of creativity. You have a developmental psychologist named Winnicott who Jenny Monick has all of these books too. So I was lucky, but here he writes certain things like a good object is no good to the infant unless created by the infant. And then I looked to Naumann's. You know, this Naumann finds this guy named Ray Hunt, who's a horseman in New Mexico or somewhere out there. I mean, let me just say one more thing about Winnicott. He also says, in the artist of all kinds, I think one can detect an inherent dilemma, which belongs to the coexistence of two trends: the urgent need to communicate in the still more urgent need not to be found. And, you know, here we have a guy who sort of went away, wanted to be alone, but desperately needed to communicate, and still does. And so I go to the website of Ray Hunt, who's this guy that teaches him how to what they call break horses. I don't think it really is as severe as the sound, but Ray Hunt on his website had a section called poems, and there was only one poem in it, so I feel compelled to read the one poem. This is called The Guy in the Glass by Dale Winbrow. When you get what you want in your struggle for pelf, and the world makes you king for a day, then go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that guy has to say. For it isn't your father or mother or wife who judgment upon you must pass. The feller whose verdict counts most in your life is the guy staring back from the glass. He's the feller to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear up to the end, and you've passed your most dangerous, difficult test if the guy in the glass is your friend. You may be like Jack Horner and chisel a plum and think you're a wonderful guy, but the man in the glass says you're only a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. You can fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartaches and tears if you've cheated the guy in the glass. That was originally published in The American magazine in 1934. Well, So I was intrigued by this thing about the horses, and so underneath poems on Ray Hunt's website it says Tom Durrance. So I clicked Tom Durrance. Tom Durrance is the mentor of Ray Hunt. This is what Tom Durrance says. Listen to the horse. Try to find out what the horse is trying to tell you. All we are trying to do is fix things up to where he can find them. Then it's the horse's idea. And then there's this Winnicott idea that, right, well, I can't find that exact page right now, but I immediately started thinking about this relationship of the man to the horse, and then going back and wondering about the man to the son and the daughter. Most particularly because I have an older son and a younger daughter, and it's just so curious to me that I think the richness of his work in some way is related to a problem that he had in terms of understanding exactly how to be present. Not that that was a problem, and not that it's a negative thing, but there's a certain relationship that one has to this conflict, which is, you know, am I an independent entity pursuing this desperate need to communicate as an artist, or does that attempt necessarily separate me from this thing which is life? And so there's something going on there that's well, listen, I'm gonna show a video now, so I'm gonna come out of PowerPoint. Excuse the computer screen because I couldn't figure out how to do this any other way. So here we go.
The good life. You live the good life. We live the good life. This is the good life.
This is work.
I have work. You have work. We have work. This
This is
is
play.
work. I
I'm
play.
having fun.
You play.
You're having
We
fun.
play.
We're
This
having fun.
is play.
This is fun.
I'm having fun.
I'm bored.
You're having fun.
You're bored.
We're having
We're bored.
fun. This is
Life is
fun.
bored.
I'm
I'm bored.
bored.
You're
You're
bored.
bored.
We're
We're
bored.
bored. This
Life
is
is bored.
boredom.
I have sex.
I'm boring.
You have
You're
sex.
boring.
We
We're
have sex.
boring. This
This is
is
sex.
boring.
I love.
I have sex.
You love.
You have sex.
We love.
We have sex.
This is our love.
This is sex.
I hate.
I love.
You hate.
You love.
We hate.
We love.
This is
This is love.
I like to eat.
I hate.
You like to
You hate.
We like to eat.
hate.
This
This
is eating.
is hating.
I like to
I
drink.
like to eat.
You like to
You
drink.
like to eat.
We like to drink.
like to eat.
This
This
is
is
drink.
eating.
I
I like to drink.
You like
You
to
like to drink.
We like to
We like to drink.
This
This
is shit.
is drinking.
I piss.
I like to
You
shit.
piss.
You like
We
to
piss.
shit. We like to
This
shit.
is piss.
This is shitting.
I like to sleep.
I piss.
You like to
piss.
sleep.
We
We
piss.
like to sleep.
This is piss.
Sleep well.
I like to
I
sleep.
pay.
You like to
You
sleep.
pay.
We like to
We
sleep.
pay.
This
This
is
is paying.
sleeping.
I
I
don't
pay.
want to die.
You pay.
You don't
We
want to
pay.
die.
This is paying.
We don't want to die.
I don't want to die.
This is
You
fear
don't
of
want to
death.
die. We don't want to die.
I was a good boy.
This is
You
fear
were a
of
good boy.
death.
We were good boys. That was
I
good.
was a good boy.
I was a
You
good
were
girl.
good boy.
You were a good
We
girl.
were good boys.
We were good girls.
That was good.
That was good.
I was a good girl.
I'm a bad
You
boy.
were a good girl.
You were a bad
We were
boy.
good girls.
We were bad
That was
boys.
good.
That was bad.
I was a
I
bad
was a
boy.
bad girl.
You were a bad boy.
We were bad
Bad
girls.
boys.
That was bad.
bad.
I am a
I was
virtuous
a
man.
bad girl.
You were a virtuous man.
Bad
We
girl.
are virtuous
We
men.
were bad
This is
girls.
virtue.
That was
I am a
bad.
virtuous woman. You are a
I
virtuous
am a
woman.
virtuous man.
We are virtuous women.
You are a virtuous
This is
man.
virtue.
We are virtuous
I am
men.
an evil man.
This is
You
virtue.
are an evil man.
I am a
We are
virtuous
evil
man.
men. This is
You
evil.
are a virtuous
I am
man.
an evil woman.
We are
You are.
virtuous women.
We are
This
evil women.
is virtue.
This is evil.
I
I'm alive.
am evil.
You're a
Well, let's go back to this one. I'm inclined to open up this to Q&A because I feel a little bit bogged down by all of these Xerox papers that I have, and I'd rather just talk about my own personal feelings and when I discovered this work and that sort of thing. So if there are any questions, maybe we can take them now. Okay, well that's good to know that. So we're going to open up to questions now. Not everybody at once, one at a time. Yes, please.
I wanted to ask about the piece. I forgot the name of the guy that was on the page. Like, so the piece from 1960.
Neil Ben Ezra, yeah.
So, like, you seemed really facetious when you were talking about the piece in a way, and I felt like you also really loved it. I don't know, I didn't really like trace your intent there, but I suppose that relates to like our questions about Bruce Nauman and his intent as well. Like, ultimately, all language is a virus, right? But could you talk a bit more about that piece and what you know, because I thought you had a lot to say, and I didn't quite follow what you were actually trying to say.
Okay, let's find Neil Ben Ezra.
So what is, you said, what is the thing about the movement?
Okay, so I mean, inside here we have what I see as, let's say, imagine a three-dimensional rectangle. What's the geometric word for that? Like not a cube, but a rectangular prism. Well, yeah, three-dimensional rectangular prismic allogram, but the I mean, you have an object which within it very tightly is depicted a three-dimensional object of relatively similar shape. So you have what is a picture, just barely enough of something that is almost that thing itself. This to me is a language dilemma about the nature of representation with an irrefutable personal idiosyncrasy, which is the bend at the top, which to me completely reflects in its most raw and vulnerable way a physicality of Bruce Nauman that appears in all his other work. It is a really I don't know, raw and unseen by the artist at the time, I'm sure, reflection and mirror for this problem of objecthood and beingness. I mean, it you know, so then it enters into language and the material of language later, because I think that the object ultimately to him, which is you know, sort of once removed here, took form in grammar, in the potential of grammar to sort of identify this third space, which is not the thing nor the opposite of the thing, but which is a very malleable in between.
Do you think that space is being performative, or do you think that space is being like a time space that he's in?
Well, the space is. I mean, as far as I see it, the space is the space of play. This is the space of play. This is not. I mean, it's related to. Okay, there's two things. One is this sort of, you know, essential philosophical deconstruction of the dialectic, which is, you know, on the one hand we have that this thing is moving. Well, okay, grammatically speaking, everything that we say in terms of a relationship to these theories breaks down under scrutiny. So we have to approach the world in a different way. That's one third space that's between those two things, and the other third space is a psychological third space, which is between, let's say, the concept of inner feelings and externally relating to objects in the world. And this third space is psychologically, it refers to the space, and this is coming from Winnicott, is the space of the relationship between the child and the mother, and beginning to feel a certain level of comfort in there. I mean, this is relating to this thing about hide and seek. You know, this thing that the child does. But so I'm talking about this third space, which is the space of play, which he also talks about as the space of culture and living. This is where we live, and its characteristic is that it's not so determined. When you're in it, the determination isn't there in the same way that it is in the inner reflection or in the external relating to objects. I mean, that's sort of what I'm thinking, and I also think this piece is really significant too, because in my mind, which I learned later, this is essentially the last piece that he made without having children, which I think is a significant thing. To me, it's interesting.
Is the piece actually called Familiar Desert?
No. That's a joke. No, it's not a joke. That's, I mean, I go through my life thinking about Neil Ben Ezra. I mean, if Neil Ben Ezra's in the room, don't, yeah.
But I'm confused. Can you just, what are we looking at?
We're looking at a picture of the first page in the catalog raisonné of Bruce Nauman. This was a catalog made in 1995 in conjunction with the Walker Show.
So Neil Ben Ezra
Is the author of the first essay. Yeah. So what's underneath here is text that I blocked. I blocked the text because I've opened this book. I have said, you know, Bruce Nauman has a deep, deep effect on me. I want to know more. And I open this page and I look at this thing and I say, I need not pursue this any further. I mean, what I need is here. I can spend the rest of my life on this page, so don't give me any words. You know, just give me Neil Ben Ezra. So that's what we're looking at. That's
It's documentation of a three-dimensional sculpture. The sculpture has within it a two-dimensional image and a three-dimensional object.
right. Well, wait. You mean in terms of, in factual terms, what are we looking at? Yeah, we are looking at.
Describe the objective reality of that.
The objective reality of it is book open, camera in hand, click, put it in to the computer, make a little square, make that white, put it in the PowerPoint. Picture of a picture. I mean, we should, you know, obviously the original photograph of the Nauman piece too is so scrappy. I mean, that's part of my interest in this is like, wow, in the catalog they published a picture that was shot with a crappy camera under crappy lighting conditions, like, oh, get me back to that world, you know? Yes?
What does Nauman say about his own work? What does he describe it as, or include in context?
This interview that I was reading, he doesn't like to talk about his own work, I don't think. I mean, what I remember him saying is that the further along he got, the more difficult it was to talk about his own work. I think that he's happy to talk about the situations that lead to the decisions where the work appear from. One of them is finding a billboard that already has the Fun from Rear thing in it. I think that he also talked about talking about the I'm a Bad Boy piece. He said, you know, I had this information and I hadn't made a video in 15 years, but I didn't want to make another Neon, and I needed to get this information out, so I hired actors to read this information. I mean, this set of terms he thought was crucial somehow, and in his head, and he thought that you know, getting this out there and communicating it in this way would help satisfy a certain need that he had towards developing, identifying some problem, some experience. I don't know exactly what he says. Has anybody read what he says? Yeah, Zach.
I remember reading an interview with him where he said it was torture every day he went into the studio.
Yeah, right. This essentially goes to the difference between him and Guston in my mind, which is that he feels, and this was, I mean, you know, he was one of the first to sort of pursue it in this way, but he has to reinvent art every time. Yeah, I remember I read something he said I went to graduate school to be an artist thinking I would learn how to make art. Well, all that I realized was that I have to set those terms anew every time I come in to the studio. And that's a hell of a project. I mean, that's not easy. I think Guston's got an easier. Yeah.
So I guess on that same note, I'm so curious to hear you talk about this sense of play with the Neil Ben Ezra piece. Because, and I was so curious when you showed us the lecture on Nauman, because in my mind, Nauman is somehow linked with the Cold War and like the kind of logic of like the Rand Corporation, and even like watching that video where there are two narratives and you can't listen to one fully, you can't listen to the other, you can sort of tune one in or tune one out, and there's a lot of that with the language that's work. where it's like this polarity where you can't really focus. And I'm just so curious about your relationship to Naumann, because I knew that it was torture for him to make work, and I always thought Cold War, the only kind of glimmer of insight that I had was that whole thing about horses, where he talked about the audience and horses. I thought, well, maybe that's where Getty's got this relationship with them.
And what was the shift that happened with the audience around horses?
Well, it was the rate in the Calvin Tompkins biography in the New Yorker. They talked about, or Tompkins talked about the moment where Naumann, now this is only maybe 5 or 6 years ago, realized that training horses could be analogous to having a relationship with the audience, whereas prior to that, where it was sort of Roy Hunt's version of the generosity of spirit, as opposed to the kind of forcefulness of jamming a dialectic down people's throats.
So it was first it was jamming, and then it was something that was more easy and reciprocal.
Yeah, which I haven't seen that work. I didn't see these pieces in Venice, or maybe the
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. He did that piece. The Venice piece, I think, was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. A lot of speakers.
Yeah, I haven't seen. So I guess my question is, how, what precipitated?
Well, I mean, that's a really tough question. I mean, what did it? And I would say that it was a combination of two pieces. I mean, for me, in the early days of sorting it out, I mean, it was this piece, which was, this piece, which is wow, you're gonna really say that. What does it feel like? In other words, making art was entering a situation where you don't know what it feels like to do something until you do it, and then so you feel it as it's being done, and then you sort it out through that feeling or live in that feeling or whatever it is. But I really thought with this it was like, I'm really going to go into the middle of this. I'm not going to, and that's to me, I mean, my interest in art in that sense has been getting into the middle, because the middle is such a rich, vast territory. I don't know, I think that this goes right to the middle, where you can't, you have what looks like an empirical problem, which is actually a grammatical one. And then Neil Ben Ezra, which is just like, I mean, this is just an emotional trigger. This is the object that has an emotional potency. It's hard to really say why. Okay, well, thank you very much.